I'd say I wasn't surprised by a whole lot. I think if there was one thing I would mildly consider myself surprised in, and that was Nebraska's running game looked very competent.
Better than I expected.
It's still, I still don't think it has a true home run threat, but
thought the Emmett Johnson long run showed that, right? Like good run, gained 40 yards, but didn't have the speed to pull away.
And I know Matt Rule has talked about wanting this, and I'm sure, and I know they're recruiting towards it. But for this year, a serviceable running game might be all you need, as long as you can go to it when you need it. And I think they're going to need it this Saturday. You're going to want to, take a little bit of a page out of North Dakota State's playbook and keep that Colorado offense off the field, keep your defense well rested. I think they can do that. Now, I don't want to blow smoke up anyone's you-know-what. Colorado's defense isn't that good. So we may still not get a great look at what is the capability of this Nebraska running game.
Well, hell, if that's the case, then we might not see that for a while this year then.
Oh, I think, again, Illinois will give a good, a decent view. And, Colorado did slow down NDSU in the second half. I will give credit where credit is due. But, but outside of that, I can't sit back here and say, man, anything surprised me. But it was nice to see Dylan carry over a lot of the things that we've seen in practice and we've seen on tape over to actual gameplay and, just look really, really
good. Would you say you're pleasantly unsurprised?
Yeah. Sure.
Travis writes, thoughts on Saturday's game? Good game, not a lot of stress, a lot of positives, a few things to work on, but now it's time to embrace the hate. Yeah, I thought Nebraska would win. I did not think they would cover. I thought that they would allow more points. I didn't think it'd look as clean as it did. But they have 3 penalties,
It did. I mean, but that flag on the opening kickoff was like, how do you get a blindside block on a kickoff that was a touchback? But no, it was a fairly clean game. I thought they did a great job after the turnover of turning right back around and getting the safety, which at that point the game was kind of sluggish.
Correct. Nebraska had some nice drives, but it only scored 1 touchdown. And then they were able, that was just everything changed after that. And they, by the time that the first drive in the second half finishes up, they're up by 30 points and the game's over.
Yeah.
I've got a thing that I've noticed that might start getting annoying as the season progresses.
What's that?
Both the broadcast team mentioned this, and I've seen this on social media and fans starting to pick up on how much that Dylan Raiola looks a little Mahomey in the way he throws and stuff. Do you think that could turn into an annoying talking point?
I would not let it annoy me if Nebraska's quarterback is getting compared to the best player in the NFL.
No, I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't like Mahomes, okay.
But if he plays like Mahomes, you'll take that.
John, I went into the game because I didn't watch it live. And so I followed it on Twitter during commercial breaks at the game I was at. And I knew that the Mahomes talking point was like a thing that people were annoyed by. But I say embrace it. It's like, oh, he's like getting compared to the best player in the NFL. That's awesome. He does look like him. He throws like him. He does.
Now, do you think that could set a weird standard, though?
He already has the weird standard, Nick.
I mean, you're a 5-star quarterback. You're brought in to be the savior of the program. You already have a certain standard. I mean, it's very easy. Red uniform, number 15. They have kind of a similar build.
Throws it sideways.
He works with the same crew.
Keep in mind, other quarterbacks have done that. I mean, Brett Favre made a living out of that, and maybe the greatest sidearm pass in Super Bowl history was thrown by Matthew Stafford, who happens to be his godfather, by the way.
Correct, yeah.
But I mean, there are certain mannerisms, but embrace it. If he's gonna look like it, if he's gonna play like it, big whoop. Who cares? Please, more. Give me more.
Yeah,
is what I would say if I were a Husker fan. But I did want to talk about the defense because it's a good game by the defense against an offense that, while it's not great, obviously, still you went in a little bit blind as to exactly what you were going to do. And when you play that fast, we saw it on their 1 touchdown drive that it can be very it can be hard to defend.
That's what I thought was going to happen more than once. I thought they would have at least 2 drives where like they kind of went down the field.
Right.
It was just that 3-play drive. Otherwise, they were great against them.
Things I'll be keeping track of this year, havoc rate. Havoc plays are plays where it's a forced fumble, it's a pass breakup, it's a tackle for loss, which of course includes sacks, or an interception. 26% of UNLV's plays resulted in havoc.
UTEP's plays.
Sorry. That's the third best havoc rate under Tony White in the last 2 years.
Behind which games?
Northwestern and
Purdue?
Maryland, believe it or not.
Oh, interesting.
Also, under 6 yards per play allowed, only 4.1 yards per play allowed. White's defenses
this is a wild
have
stat.
still not allowed a game of 6 yards per play or greater.
Yeah, when you tweeted that out this weekend, I couldn't believe it. Mainly because of the Michigan game,
And they missed out. They missed that one.
Yeah.
But so I wanted to go back and compare to previous eras of Nebraska defensive football. And so far, 0 games of allowing 6 yards of play or more under Tony White. Under Kevin Cosgrove with the Bill Callahan era, 16 out of 49 games.
Okay.
And Nebraska's record in those games was 3-13. In the Pelini era, they allowed 22 games of 6 yards or more in 94 total games. Their record was 8-14. In the Riley era, 16 in 38.
Yikes.
5-11 was the record. And in the Frost era, 17
the Chinander era. Sorry, keep going.
17 in 56 games. They were just 2-15. So it's an important marker in that if Nebraska gives up 6 yards or more, their chances of winning are about 30%.
Yeah.
And Tony White's defenses haven't given up one of those games yet. Not Colorado last year.
Not Michigan
last year.
Not anything else last year.
Not anything.
And man, like
last
this
year.
is such another great reminder because people say, okay, John, cool, but they're still 6-7 in those games. They are. But if they can get serviceable offense, and Saturday
that's all they needed.
Was definitely more than serviceable. But if they can get serviceable offense instead of bottom of the country
Why
offense.
do you think we identified mid-pack with 5,000 yards, 46 touchdowns? That's mid-pack.
By the way,
if Nebraska could just be average.
And what was the number? 500 and how many yards for the offense?
Over 500 yards of offense.
That certainly correlates to it.
By the way, this is the longest streak, 13 straight games of holding the opponent to 6 yards a play or under since 2008 to 2010. Basically the entire 2009 season. 21 straight games of 6 games per play or less. Also, just 205 yards of offense allowed. That's the third fewest yards against the Tony White Blackshirt defense.
And again, that's wild because whatever it was, 60 some odd yards was on that 3-play drive. So
Correct.
Other than that, they just stifled them
They
entire
stifled them.
Entire game.
On the offense, they averaged 6.1 yards per play. That would have been the third best game all of last season.
Stunned that would have only been the third best. I would have guessed that it would have been the first best.
Yeah. This was kind of an interesting poll. So Nebraska attempted 36 pass attempts. Obviously, not all of them were Dylan. Most of them were.
Yeah.
But they averaged 7.89 yards per attempt. Okay. That is the best yards per attempt with a minimum of 36 pass attempts since the Northwestern game in Ireland in 2022 when they had Casey Thompson at the trigger.
And the onside kick.
But Nebraska's only had 4 such games where they've attempted at least 36 passes and they've averaged at least 7 yards per attempt since 2018. Saturday was the first time Nebraska won a game like that since Purdue in 2017.
And that was a late comeback.
And that was that ugly game.
It sucked
at Purdue.
Yeah.
And just on penalties and turnovers, just +1 in turnovers and 41 fewer penalty yards than UTEP.
It was very clean. Like you said, you had the one on the kickoff, but otherwise it was a very, very clean game.
It's the first time Nebraska's been in the positive in both of those categories in an opener since 2012.
Yeah. And I mean, it makes sense, right? That all of those things happened and the game was a laugher. And it was, by halftime, it was over,
Yeah.
And that you didn't have any of those feelings, any of the weird vibes in the second half, that it was just that one, they drive down, they fumble the ball, but then the safety, and then suddenly the game, I mean, it was literally over after that. It's like, wow, they really were able to pull away and just make it so comfortable that, the stat that's been going around, of course, of all the players that have played, over 100 guys are getting on the field. It's it's the exact kind of opener that you want. No injuries,
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of players play, 3 quarterbacks get out there on the field. You see good things from all 4 running backs, you know? And of course the wide receivers are really standout players, and you know, Dillon was you know, who we thought he could be. It was exactly what you would want in an opener. It's exactly the vibes that you want going into the Colorado game this week.
No, I would agree.